Hi everyone, this is Juvairiya. This recording covers the complete SAP S4 interface um, or integration related details. Um, this includes how accounts are created, validated, how accounts are classified, updated, and maintained in CRM. This session is for any new hire taking over this module. So basically, the app that you see on the screen is the D365 CRM Sales app. This is the production environment right here, and this one is the QT environment, the same app, and we've got another development environment. So we've got a lot of integrations linked to this app. We've got the SAP S4 interface, we have the Superpass interface, pricing I930 interface, and so on. For now, for this session, we'll just be discussing related to the SAP S4 interface. Um, Before we proceed, previously each interface was called with a terminology called as RISCFID, RISCFID, but it's no longer used. So we just use the same interface name instead of any three-digit numerical to identify the interface. Um, Moving on, this data flow, as you can see, we have the accounts table here. We have the contacts, contracts, account addresses, account address relationship entities, we've got leads and so on. We've got some custom entities and activities over here, which are also linked to the accounts table. So before we proceed, to put it simply, the entire accounts in CRM are divided into two major families. One is the SAP S4 accounts, and other is the Superpass accounts. So SAP Superpass accounts are something which are created or updated from a completely different interface, which will be discussed later. But just a brief overview is that the Superpass accounts, their business partner number, in short, we call it as BP number. It starts with 903 708 99. So if you see any such account, that means that's a Superpass account. And we have a basic starter account called as prospect account. Prospect accounts are something which do not have a business partner number. Business partner number is something which is something like this. It is also called as account number because recently we have changed the terminology of these fields. But as you can see over here, there is a tab called as SAP data where we receive the data from integration. And this is exactly where we get the SAP business partner number. So moving forward, I will always be calling it as BP number instead of business partner number. So it's easier to uh, relate to it. So going back to the account types, we have Superpass accounts whose BP number starts with 903. There's no any specific designation as to what exact the prefixes are for BP numbers for Superpass account, but these are some of the common numbers that we see. And another thing is that the SAP grouping for Superpass accounts is Z09. So you see a field here called as SAP grouping, which denotes or which determines which type of account the specific record is. So if it is Z09 here, that means it's a Superpass account. So that's one family. They have a completely different interface. The data flow for this account is CCS to MuleSoft and then CRM. They have a completely different logic. They have their own sets of schedules for data flow, so which will be discussed later. Uh, the other family is the SAP S4 account, which includes several sub-account types like main account, sold to, payer, subsidiary, ship to, bill to, supply location. Main account usually serves as a parent account of all the other account types. And yes, we do have a definite a SAP grouping prefix and business partner numbers. Like, for example, if it is a main account, then as you can see over here, their SAP grouping starts with ZMNC. And if it's a business partner number, this is a test account, so maybe it's overwritten, but normally for main accounts, it usually starts with a definite number. If it's a ship to account, then the SAP grouping is ZSHP, and their business partner numbers start with Z0002. Similarly, we have sold to accounts, whose business partner number starts with 001, and their SAP grouping is ZSLD. So these are the certain terminologies which help us identify which exact account types specific record is. And all these sub account types are part of SAP system. So any data that is received through integration for these accounts are from the specific interface that we are going to discuss for this session, that is SAP S4 interface. All the data for these account types are received from the SAP S4 interface. The account life cycle usually starts from prospect account. So the very basic account is created in CRM is a prospect account. From there, based on the interface and based on the requirements, either that prospect account gets converted into a superpass or it gets converted into an SAP account. So a prospect, how do we identify a prospect account? It is something which does not have a business partner number, and it can either be created manually or through integration. And once SAP assigns it a business partner number that defines, and some SAP data is also assigned to that prospect number, it decides whether it's going to be a superpass account or an SAP account. For SAP account, if uh, if it's a main, if that prospect gets converted into a main account, or if that prospect gets converted into a sold to, or a payer or subsidiary, then a new record is created in the accounts entity. But if it is a bill to, ship to, supply location, then a new address record is also created in the account address entity instead. This might sound a little confusing, but once we go through the integration flow, all of this would make sense. So moving back to the integration flow, there are four systems involved in this CRM multi-system pipeline. The very first that we have is that SAP S4 system. We have the MDM system, and then we have the MuleSoft system, which is like a middleware for all these accounts type. And then we've got the D365 CRM sales system. Um, Basically, to put it short, what happens is users will create an account, a prospect account in CRM, right? Uh, and what happens here is that all these four systems gather together and function together to manage all this data. SAP S4 is basically where all the entire SAP rated data is generated. If we go to any one of these accounts type, you see something called as SAP data, and all the fields over here are locked because the end users are not supposed to overwrite or add any data to this form. Any data that is received from integration is all filled in over here in this tab in all these fields. That's the reason their labels are also mentioned as SAP sales group, SAP parent account, and all of this information. This information is then utilized later for data transformation, which will be discussed further. So what you see here is that all some of the data over here is from SAP system, like such as SAP grouping, SAP business partner number. So, and we have something called as MDM, which is the master data management system. It basically keeps a record of the entire data and makes it up to date. So in case if any data is corrupted or incorrect in D365 sales or in SAP, MDM is the one that we go to and verify and validate our data from. MuleSoft is just the middleware which is communicating with all these systems for data transformation, validation, and data processing. And CRM is the end destination of this pipeline. As you can see here, that there's a lot to discuss in this integration flow, but this is basically how the system works if you put it visually. So what happens is either a prospect account is created by the end user in CRM, right? And or a new prospect account is created via integration. So both of the things can happen. Assuming we say that a new account is created via integration, if we go with that process, then what happens? The very first step is MDM creates an account. That account goes to SAP system. MDM still does not have a business partner number assigned to it. It still does not have an SAP field data yet assigned to it. So it's going to send this data to SAP S4. SAP S4 generates a unique identifier called as SAP business partner number, which is also later sent to CRM. This is what we call it's an 8-digit unique identifier for each of the account uh, to uniquely identify each record. That data is being sent back to MDM, and SAP Business Partner is now saved in MDM as well. Later, a flag is set called as CRM enrichment flag. If that flag is set to true, only then an event is triggered and data flows to SAP. And SAP pushes forward the data to MuleSoft. Recent enhancements were done, which gives a more detailed insight into how exactly this logic works. But basically, what happens is when SAP is ready to push the data forward to CRM, it generates something called as a DEBMAS, DEBMAS IDOC. Um, the generation of this IDOC is a proof that the data was pushed forward from SAP and everything was successful until this point. If the IDOC is not generated, that means the data did not flow outbound and there is something wrong with SAP. So that's another proof of how the data flow has different flags set at each step. Once the IDOC is pushed forward, MuleSoft picks up that data and then it combines the data from MDM payload, it combines the data from SAP payload, and then it pushes forward that combined data into D365 CRM using the APIs. Before pushing the data, it cleans the data and performs certain logic processing to check if the account exists or not in order to avoid any kind of duplication of records. Once the data reaches D365 CRM, all these fields over here are filled as well. All these data fields are filled, and we have three critical Power Automate flows which get triggered anytime the data in these fields are filled or they are modified. Uh, and that in turn leads to transformation or modification of non-SAP data in CRM. Uh, and the three important critical flows are these: account integration, account component update migrated, and account integration update migrated. Um, we'll get back to this soon. So basically, to put it briefly, basically MDM creates an account or it updates an account. Data goes to SAP. SAP sends a business partner number to MDM back if it's a brand new record. But if not, it then like pushes forward based on the flag being set. It pushes the data forward and creates a IDOC simultaneously. Kafka picks up that record and sends it to MuleSoft. MuleSoft checks if the account exists in MDM and not and performs certain logical conditioning processing, combines the payload from SAP and MDM together, cleans the data, and then sends it to CRM. Because the data is updated in CRM, three Power Automate flows get triggered based on the data present in the SAP fields, and then they perform data manipulation inside CRM for the rest of the fields. Now, what kind of logical processing or what kind of conditions are performed over here before the data is actually manipulated in CRM by MuleSoft? So basically, this is what happens. Um, SAP S4 publishes the IDOC and MuleSoft picks up the record. So it's going to see if that whatever that GUID is present in MDM's data payload, whatever GUID is being sent, we know that GUID is present over here. We can identify that the GUID of each record is present over here in the URL, which is an alphanumeric character, and it's unique to each account's record. Now, if that GUID exists in MDM, that means it's an existing account and it's supposed to update that. So what it does, it goes ahead, updates the CRM data, and the flow ends. But let's assume you go to a scenario where it checks if the GUID exists in MDM or not, and it turns out the GUID does not exist in MDM. So what it does, it creates an API call. It checks if the business partner exists in CRM or not. If the business partner exists in CRM, that means the account still exists, so it just has to perform an update. So what it does is that MuleSoft updates the data in CRM, and then it also returns its associated GUID and along with the MDM ID back into MDM. So MDM stores the GUID data for that respective account, and it also stores the account number for that respective accounts for future updates. And that's it, the flow ends. But let's assume that even the BP number is not found in CRM. It does a final check by checking if at least the account number of that account is in CRM or not. If the account number exists in CRM, that means the account is present in CRM. It has to perform an update on that record. It does that, and then it returns back the number and GUID back to MDM for storing it into the master data, and the flow ends. But the last resort is the final thing. If it doesn't find any account with that BP number or with that GUID or with that account number, that means it couldn't find that account, meaning the account does not exist and the integration is supposed to create a new account. So it creates a brand new account in CRM, and then it also returns its associated account number, GUID, and business partner number, which are the three unique identifiers for a record, and that data is sent back to MDM so it stores it for future reference. This is basically what happens. Once an account is created, let's say an account is created in CRM. As soon as an account is created in CRM, this critical flow gets triggered. And basically, what it does is it picks up the data from all these SAP fields, and then it's gonna transform the other values. Like, for example, over here, as soon as a new account is created, the SAP grouping is ZSLT, meaning the account type over here should be sold to. So, what it does is it goes over here. We see that the account type is over here, it's sold to, so it converts the account type to sold to. Next over here, let's say the SAP parent account. What do we have? SAP parent account. Okay. Currently the data isn't over here, but if SAP parent account is over here, then that becomes the main account. It's a completely different record. So whatever records information is present in this field, that becomes the main account of sold to. So it Power Automate Flow sets that as the main account for this sold to account and performs all these transformations. Similarly, we have another such flow in a scenario where the account already exists in CRM, right? The account already exists in CRM. There's no need to create a new account. So what MuleSoft interface does is it goes through all this logic and I updates the account in any one of these scenarios. Assuming it has updated an existing account in CRM, two of these flows will get triggered. It's either account integration uh, update migrated, or its account owner update migrated. Account integration update migrated is triggered when an existing SAP account or when an existing account's SAP data is modified. So in that scenario, let's assume we pick up this account and this account already exists in CRM. So what happens is that the integration changes the business partner number of this one, and it also changes the SAP grouping from ZSLD to ZSHP, meaning uh, what we are expecting is that the Power Automate flow over here will get triggered because the fields on which it is getting triggered are the SAP fields. You can check it out over here. As you can see, these are the selected columns, specific columns on which the account gets triggered. You can see SAP grouping, SAP name 1, SAP name 2, payer account, search term. So only when the data in these fields are changed, only then the account is triggered. So if the SAP grouping is changed from ZSLT to ZSHP, what happens is the Power Automate flow for account integration update migrated will get triggered. This account will get triggered for an existing account's data being changed via integration, and it's gonna pick up the value from all these fields and perform data transformation for the non-SAP fields. So if SAP grouping of this field is changed from ZSLT to ZSHP, Power Automate Flow is gonna pick that account, and based on the value here, it's gonna change it from sold to ship to. And if again, let's say the parent account is changed to some other account, or let's say the data existed previously and now it's being changed to null, the Power Automate flow gonna pick up this value and it's gonna go and change the value for the main account to null and delink it from any parent account. So these are some of the examples of how Power Automate flow gets triggered and how it performs the final steps. Um, it is very important if you go through the Power Automate flow, which will be discussed in the later session. Most of these have conditions where it's gonna perform different actions on different account types. Similarly, we have the third Power Automate flow called as account owner update migrated. Basically, this flow is responsible for changing the owner of an existing account based on the data being changed for specific fields. Like, let me open this flow. As you can see here, there are only like 5, 6 fields over here of SAP fields on which the flow is triggered. So you can see SAP employee ID, SAP sales group, account types, Suncor, grouping, business partner. So let's say if the employee ID and sales group are being changed. You can see SAP's employee ID over here. Um right here, employee ID. If the data over here changes, it's gonna pick up the value from these fields. The Power Automate flow is going to pick the value from these fields. It's going to go through the conditions and the logic of the Power Automate flow and pick up the associated user and assign that user as the owner of this record. So this is one of these three flows are one of the most critical flows. They're expected to be running 24/7, and there has to be on a daily basis there has to be a routine check of each account data, if the accounts are getting modified or not, if there's a huge time gap, especially for SAP S4 interface, which runs in almost real time. So if the MDM performs data, so it shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 hours for the data change to reflect in CRM. So we'll have to constantly monitor and see if the data is getting updated. If not, then there's something wrong with the integration, and we'll have to raise a ticket with the MuleSoft team or MDM team or SAP team. But the first team is MuleSoft because they are a direct source of data flow. And if you can see over here, there's something called as integration SVC, which is a service account. So this account is the one which is responsible for data flow through integration. Any data that is being received into the production environment through integration is under the ownership of this account called as integration SVC. And this account's ownership is managed by MuleSoft team. We do not have any authority to change the passwords or refresh tokens for this account type. It's completely managed by MuleSoft. So if there is any data flow issue or tokens are expired or passwords are expired, MuleSoft is the first person to reach out to. Recently, MuleSoft had migrated all their APIs from RTF to Cloud Hub 2, which is also called as CH2. And since then, we've noticed that they've started using a new label. Instead of integration SVC, you see something called as PRD MuleSoft. So if it's integration SVC or if it's PRD MuleSoft, that means that's an integration account managed by MuleSoft, which is responsible for integration data flow. Any data or any data which is changed by these accounts, PRD MuleSoft or integration SVC, uh, that you see in the audit history, that means that data was modified or created through integration and not by us. But if you see any name such as processes we see, that means that data was modified or created through the Power Automate flows or any other workflow. Another important thing is that each and every single Power Automate flow or any other workflow must be under the ownership of processes we see. As you can also see over here that these three critical flows are also under the ownership of processes we see, which is a service account. Um, Previously, we used to manage and monitor this flow like continuously on daily basis, but to ease some work, we have another sub helper flows called as update check last modified superpass account and update check last modified SAP accounts. Both of these flows are scheduled flow which run with a time gap of 4 hours. What they basically do is, for example, this flow it checks if all these SAP accounts are getting updated um, uh, every 4 hours. And and you're supposed to receive an email. An email is being sent, something like this. Um, So an email is sent like this with the total number of accounts being updated in the last 4 hours, um, and SAP accounts. So during weekdays, it is expected that there is some or the other number in the SAP accounts update. Uh, if you see zero like in every 2 3 consecutive emails, then there's something wrong and you'll have to keep checking the Datadog logs or reach out to MuleSoft or SAP team to see if the data is being modified or updated. It's a different case for Superpass. For Superpass we have some set scheduled hours at which only during which the data is being updated, so you'll just have to monitor at those hours, that's all. So these two flows kind of ease your work, but that doesn't mean you'll have to stop monitoring the flows. You'll have to check if there are any failures and why they are failing and um, get to the root cause of it. So basically, that's about it. To sum it up, we have SAP S4 accounts. Um, yeah, we have SAP S4 accounts whose data is created in MDM. Four systems are involved: MDM, S4, MuleSoft, CRM. CRM is the end destination of the entire pipeline. We have three critical flows which are expected to be monitored and should be running 24 by 7. Um, and we also have two helper flows which monitor the data updates and send a routinely 4-hour email of how many accounts were updated. And the entire data flow for this accounts is from SAP S4 interface. Um, all the SAP S4 accounts, that is main account, ship to, sold to, bill to, supply location, all of these account types are under the umbrella of SAP S4 accounts, and that data is being sent to integration. To go into more detailed understanding of how this interface works, you could refer to the Confluence page links that is available over here. As you can see that we have a Confluence page. This was the previous technical documentation. It's the recent one, post recent enhancements. All the information is provided over here, and the three critical flows are also over here. For more information on how users use these accounts, you can also refer to Solution Design Architecture document or Trainer's Book document. Uh, this Another important thing for more detailed understanding is that in case if you are monitoring the Datadog logs, um, in the debmas idoc document, even if sometimes debmas document is generated after SAP pushes the data, uh, these two fields must be non-null. Only then the data is pushed forward. So these are responsible for BP number and account group. Uh, so that's an important information. Previously, uh, and to wrap it up, to recap all of these things, another way is that, let's say a user creates a prospect account, right? So let me open one. Yeah. So you should probably see a prospect account over here. Let's take up this one. Currently, this is the ship to accounts. The way you can figure this out is because it is marked as its business partner starts with 002. That means it's a ship to account. And yeah, so this account was initially created through integration. The way you can identify is because you can see that there is a create event and integration SVC is responsible for that. Meaning this account was created through integration and an end user did not create this. And you can see initially the account type is prospect. Okay. And let me open any prospect account. Okay, let's open this one. Okay. So as you can see over here, this is currently a ship to account because its business partner starts with 002, right? And this account has a create event by an end user called as Lisa. So Lisa created this account and initially it was a prospect account. That means it's not expected to have a SAP business partner number, right? So let's scroll down and see if it does have a business partner. No, there's no SAP business partner number. Initially it was null. So later on, what these end users do is after creating this account, they're gonna pick up the GUID from this account, right? They're going to pick up this GUID. They're going to pick up the account name and account number. Previously, it was called as the account number, the one which starts with ACC dash. Uh, Very recently, we've changed the label to CRM ID. So they're gonna pick up these two details, go back to MDM, save that data from CRM, and then update whatever information is related to the accounts and trigger the data flow. So once the data is created, and by the way, they manually enter this ACC number. So this leads to another possible error is that while they are entering this data manually, um, they might add some spaces or there's some kind of human error which could lead to integration behaving differently, assuming that it's this account does not exist. So it's gonna create a new account. So this has happened before where MDM would enter account number of a prospect account into MDM. There is bound to be some human or manual error, and because of which the integration assumes that this is not an existing account, and because it cannot be found because there are some spaces or there's some incorrect number here, and then it creates a duplicate account in CRM. So these are some events or examples from SAP interface where we've resolved these issues. So just another mention of that. So yeah, coming back to this, um, eventually you can see that finally integration has updated this account data. And you can see integration is updating the SAP business partner from null to 002 and so on. And it also updates SAP grouping from null to ZSHP, meaning it is supposed to be converted to SHIP2. And there is SAP search term, SAP PO box and all of this, right? So yeah, so since all of this information is changed, process SVC is updating the owner. What does this mean? This means a Power Automate flow got triggered because integration data was updated, right? And it is changing the owner. So, which flow is responsible for changing the owner? It is integration account owner update migrated, right? So, that's the one. Because all the SAP data, SAP grouping business partner was changed based on the logic in the Power Automate flow, it's gonna update the owner. So that's another thing. If you see process SPC update and if you see an integration update prior to that, and you see that the process SPC is updating the owner, that means the Power Automate flow was responsible for performing this event. You also see another process we see update over here where you can see that the account type is being changed from prospect to ship to, address is also changed. You can see the main account was initially Artemis and now it's null, right? So all of this was updated because of a Power Automate flow, and this is account integration update migrated flow, which is responsible for making all these changes. Why? Because you can see there is process SVC. So of course it's hinting to a Power Automate flow. Account type, it's not changing the owner per se, but actually changing the values of non-SAP fields. So the only one flow which is responsible for doing it is account integration update migrated flow, right? And then there are some other data triggers or data flow which is happening concurrently. And we have integration update again, which is changing the SAP name. So again, a Power Automate flow gets triggered and changes the name. So basically, this is what happens. And another important thing is in case if you're performing any bulk updates to such accounts, you're not supposed to use the SVC account and you're supposed to use your own account. And very important update is that while you're performing bulk updates, it should be done during off business hours, right? And the Power Automate flows must be turned off temporarily during off business hours because that's the most safest window during which not not many are performing any updates in an SAP account, right? And post the bulk update, which is done via data import or SQL CDS or whatever. Once that is complete, you can reactivate the flow and make sure they are running back smoothly. Because if you turn on the flows and you're making some bulk operations on these accounts, it's going to trigger the flow and maybe revert back the changes. So that's the reason. I guess that's it. So once MDM has put that data, and this is basically what happens. Any questions, any doubts, in case you can refer to all these documents over here. You can refer to these things, or there are even ServiceNow tickets or incidents in which we have mentioned a lot of updates and information and closure information related to what was being resolved and what went wrong. So yeah, that's all for this SAP S4 interface. Um, Thank you.